What is up, Alex Loera? Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm so excited to talk to you. Utah Royals. So I can't wait to talk about Utah, number one. But the first question I always ask my guests is, what are you all about? Because I think it's fun to know what people are super into at the moment. So what is Alex all about right now?
Currently, I am all about my Spanish lessons and my piano lessons. I have Spanish every Tuesday and piano every Wednesday. So far it's been amazing. Piano is very challenging, but my teacher is amazing, and she's so beautifully gifted at piano that I'm like, I will never be there. But it's so fun to listen to her and to learn from her. So I think that is what I'm loving right now.
You're an athlete. You will definitely get there. You will definitely practice and get there. But you said Spanish lessons. That's not like Duolingo. Are you getting taught by a real human?
I do have a tutor, yes. And she's amazing too. She actually has a crazy story herself and found out that her brain can just retain so much information after a critical car accident where she almost died and had a severe brain injury. And then used that, came back and learned 8 languages because she had figured out that her brain could retain so much information. And so then now she's teaching Spanish to all of her 8 kids Spanish. And so here we are. I feel like her 9th kid learning Spanish. It's amazing.
That is amazing. And so I have to ask you, because you are a pro athlete and you have so many things that you could be spending your time doing. What led you to say, hey, I want to take Spanish lessons and piano lessons?
Yeah, I'll start with piano. I took a class in college in piano. And although it was like super challenging, super time consuming, I just love the way the piano sounds, and I love instrumental music. And so I was like, you know what? I have some extra free time, and I was gifted a keyboard for my birthday. And then randomly, one of my other friends gifted me lessons, a month of lessons paid for. And so
that's an awesome gift.
Yeah, I had the keyboard gifted and lessons, and now I've just continued it myself. But that is what started that whole obsession. And then with Spanish, I am half Mexican, so I have the opportunity to play for the Mexican national team. And so I can understand a lot more than I can speak, but I do figure that if I want to go down that route and represent Mexico, I would love to be able to interact with fans and talk to my teammates and coaches in their first language. And so unfortunately, it's not my first language, but I am eager and determined to learn it.
That is so fun. I'm so excited to just see how that unfolds. Hopefully you will be fluent next time I see you. That you're going to be calling out to your teammates in Spanish on the field.
Yes, I hope so.
That's amazing. What's the best song that you can play right now on the piano?
Well, currently, the only song I know is Jingle Bells.
Okay. Christmas is near.
It's the time it's here, so here we go.
Hey, that's all you need to know. Hey, holiday song. Here we go.
Honestly, and then I'll just leave it at that and be like, you don't even know how many other songs I have in my school belt.
We're sticking with what's on trend right now. That's awesome.
Yes.
I have to ask you just about living in Utah, because I actually got to go to Utah for the first time ever this summer, and I was going to be reporting on a PLL professional lacrosse game, and I saw the schedule, and I'm in my head, no way they send me to Utah. I'm in Boston. Like, I'll probably do these other weekends. Nope. I was in Salt Lake City for the first time. And it was awesome. So beautiful. But I did not have any time really to explore around. So if someone goes to Utah, or if I go to Utah in your area again, what's the one thing that they should be doing?
There's so much to do in Utah. You've got coffee shops in downtown that are amazing. There's a lot of actually really good food places. If you're a foodie, there's really good places. Obviously, you have the mountains. We're getting to that time of year where snowboarding, skiing, it's a big hub for snowboarding and skiing. But hikes, you can do that. They're beautiful. I'm not a hiker, but a couple of my good friends on the team are hikers, so they go all the time. And honestly, I went to the Salt Flats the other day with some of my friends. And
I saw you post from that. Yes. I thought it was AI.
No,
it was so beautiful.
I literally, I'm not going to lie. The salt, even though I don't know what's been on top of it. And it's so salty, but it's beautiful. The sunsets, just the nature, it's amazing. It's breathtaking.
What a cool place to live.
Yeah.
Did
and
you
I
ever
didn't think that? No, I didn't think I was going to end up ever in Utah. I didn't think I would like it, but I love it. and I can't see myself leaving until the Lord calls me somewhere else, which is crazy.
That's a great place to be.
Yeah.
And I really am so excited to talk about just your time with the Utah Royals.
Mm-hmm.
But you did rack up some hardware in college, so we have to go there. You won the national championship with Santa Clara in 2021.
Yes.
When you think back to that championship, what stands out to you?
It was crazy because it started during COVID. That year it started during COVID. And we had no idea if we were going to have a season. They sent us home in the fall, and it was like you're just sitting there waiting for a call. And I remember my good friend Sophia Jones and I went with her family to Tahoe to just get away because we were like, no way is this happening our senior year. Like, we've worked so hard, and our senior year is about to blow up. And they were like, there was talks and rumors of moving the season to spring, and so we were just waiting to hear. And so then when they decided we were going to have a season, it was in the spring, and they gave the seniors, well, they gave the entirety of the team the opportunity to opt out of that season without losing your scholarship if you had one, without any repercussions. If you decided to leave, you can come back the next year, because they were going to, tongue twister, require us to be in a bubble. So you couldn't see family, you couldn't see friends, you couldn't even see your other teammates that were living in a different living situation. It was your household, and that's it. And they were going to give us 3 to 5 stores we could go to for grocery shopping and nothing else. What a life to live.
That's a big, that's probably the harder part is where am I going to shop for my food?
Trader Joe's? Can I go to Trader Joe's? So it was just a huge commitment. And so they understood that. And they were like, if you want to be involved, you can. We did have some girls opt out, and totally fine. But the majority of us, we were like, we're all in. We're going to commit to this. And thankfully, one of our seniors, she was about to opt out. But my coach, Jerry Smith, called her and was like, hey, I would really like you to stay in. And so she stayed in. We ended up having 8 games. We had to practice with masks on, get COVID tested every week. It was insane. It was a time. But it was crazy because we had 8 games leading into the NCAA tournament. And at that time, the tournament was everybody go to North Carolina, stay in a bubble, and just play different teams from different regions, which was so different because normally we get paired up with Cal, Stanford in the first round. And so this time we got to play Clemson, different teams that we would normally never get to play. And so it was just that whole experience. We make it to the semis, and we're like, oh my gosh, like 8 games before the season, before this tournament. That's not a lot to prepare for this tournament, but we just go on this run, and we're like, why not us? Like, we're this smaller school, but big name in soccer. And so it's just, we just had that belief and found the good in the situation. And then come the championship game against Florida State, we're down. I don't even remember what time we scored, but I knew there was like minimal time. And my teammate, they make a bad pass in the back. My teammate gets the ball, and we score, tie it up, and then end up winning in PKs. And it was just so surreal the way that that story had been written my senior year, which was crazy.
So wild. And just to do it in such a hard year of COVID,
Yes.
that was my freshman year of college. And what's kind of cool is that my lacrosse team in college also won the national championship that same year.
That is
so that spring.
crazy.
And we played not that championship, but a later championship at Cary, North Carolina, the same stadium that you played in, and won that. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is so cool. Like, not only did I get to compete in the same stadium, but like have a similar experience with especially COVID. Yeah. I was telling this story the other day. I got so used to wearing this is so embarrassing, but I got so used to wearing my mask at practice that I left the locker room, went to the shower, was showering. I showered with a mask on for at least 5 minutes and then didn't realize until I was washing my face.
Crazy.
That's not okay.
That's how, like, it just was like glued to our faces. Yeah. So I don't blame you.
But what a gift, just that championship. And you also won the Honda Award, which is incredible. And recently, this fall, you got to be honored back with other recipients back at school. What was that moment like?
It was amazing. I just think Santa Clara University as a whole holds such a special place in my heart. And any time that I get to step back on campus, it's just that familiarity, that love, just that the campus brings me. And the people that I got to celebrate with, I adore them. I love them. I look up to them. And I just want to be like them when I grow up. And so to be with them, getting recognized, it was just, and to be back on that field, I think that somebody asked me the other day, like, if you could be playing anywhere again, anywhere in the world, where would you play? And I said, a 7 p.m. night game, lights on at Santa Clara, because I just love it there. And so anytime I get to go back, it's such a blessing.
That is so cool. And it's awesome because I'm sure you're able to say that, but like there are probably also hard times, right?
Yes.
And to be able to reflect back on your time in college and see the goodness of it, I think is like a level of maturity, number one, because you're not summing it up by like the hard, but also just a gift as well, because not everyone's experiences are like that. But you get drafted, you go to Kansas City, later you're in the expansion draft with BFC. When you look back at your college career, what experience did you have there, or something that you learned that you were like, oh man, that really helped me now that I'm a pro?
Yeah, I think just the understanding that things are done for your better that you don't get to see, and you may not get to understand why until later on. For example, Jerry Smith converted me into a center back my first three, basically my entire time there. And he had, my first year, had a center back playing holding mid and me playing center back. And it was like, why would you just not have us both in our positions? But
girl, we're just gonna switch. No, we're not gonna say anything.
Excuse me, sir. But now looking back at it, I did grow so much in playing as a center back, and I was blessed with recognition as a center back. And so at the time, I almost transferred because I was so upset about it. And I just continued to lean in. I didn't know that it was going to be for my good in the end. And so then when I had that experience, I was able to take that into my experience when I was traded unexpectedly from Kansas City. And looking back, I know that that was used for my good, but it's just because I had the experience of you never know what's on the other side, so just ride it out. I got to take that into my time at Kansas City, appreciate it for what it was. I love being in Kansas City. I loved the team. I loved the facilities, everything about it, the fans, the people. It's just a very special place. And so when I was going through that disappointment and that hurt, I just remembered the disappointment and the hurt that I had felt in college, and how just writing it out and just trying to suffer well in that, it turned out to be really good. And so, yeah, I think that is what is kind of been the theme of my career, is just like you never know what's on the other side of just like sticking through it, suffering well. And I think that has obviously helped in so much of my career. So
wow,
yeah.
This is such a God thing, because the whole time I was thinking about this conversation, the phrase that I kept thinking about was like, I want to ask Alice about how to suffer well. The whole time.
Yeah.
And mainly because I watched my sister battle injury and seasons that didn't look the way that she thought that they were going to go, and certain just full careers that went totally different. But her being able to now recall, and even in my own career as well, but like watching her be able to recall, hey, look what the Lord did with that. And so can you just speak a little to, you tear your ACL for the first time with Bay FC in Kansas City.
Right.
What was your initial reaction to that injury?
Yeah, I had just actually gotten back from injury from my second year at Kansas City. I had, and I'll share this story because it's I feel like when you pray bold prayers, you don't really know what you're praying until you experience them. So I think at the beginning of my second year in Kansas City, I had an amazing chaplain, Lori Kruger. She is just, we have talked a lot at this conference about pivotal people in your faith journey that just completely change the trajectory of your walk with the Lord. And she is that person in my life. And I met her, and I had just been off my first year rookie year, did amazing, played, started every game, and was feeling really great, but just so empty inside. I was like having an internal crisis of I don't know who I am outside of soccer. I don't know what my purpose is on this earth. I don't know who I am as a daughter of Christ. I don't even know Christ. Like I know of him and I've prayed to him when I needed things, but I don't have a relationship. I don't know him. And so I was telling her about that, and I ended up praying a very bold prayer like, Lord, I just wish I could take time away from soccer to know who you are and not what I think you are because of my earthly relationships, not the character that I project onto you because of what I experience on this side. And I was just like, I want to know you, and I want time away from soccer to know you, but I don't know when I would ever take time away from soccer. A week later, I go in to get a scan on my foot. That's been bothering me. You have to have surgery. You're out for 4 months. And I said, well, shoot, Lord, that is not what I meant. I don't want to be injured. But he's so gracious that he uses all for good. And so in that time, I was able to, with the help of Lori, really dive into my faith and knowing Jesus's character. And at the time, I thought I was really diving in, but looking back on it, I was still very lukewarm, like reading sometimes here and there. And so then it was just, I healed from that injury, came back, traded, and back in Kansas City. And I'm like, all right, Lord, like, I'm going to show them, like, they traded me when I wanted to be here. Like, this is going to be the best game. I'm going to score goals. Like, I'm going to show them what they're missing out on. And in the 20th minute, I think it was the 20th minute, around there, very early into the game, I go into a tackle and I just felt my knee like shift. And I didn't hear a pop, but I knew something was wrong. And so then I go back, they take me into the medical room in the back, and Lori comes down and she's in there with me. My mom's in there because my mom and grandma just happened to go to that game because they knew how emotional it was going to be for me. So they were there, and Lori just begins praying. And my mom prays, and we're all just sitting there waiting for them to do the knee test. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, Lord, why this year? Like, I have so much to prove. I was the first player in franchise history. Like, I just felt like there was so much pressure on me this season to perform well, and to just help this program turn into something so amazing. And so I just felt all of that just crush my spirit, and I honestly was really angry at the Lord. I was honestly, I because of my trade, and then I felt the Lord calling me out of a relationship that I really wanted to be in, but I left that relationship. So that was hard. And then I tear my ACL. So back to back to back, I'm just disappointment, expectations not met. I'm just grieving a lot of things. And I honestly, I turned away from the Lord, and I'm like, I don't want anything to do with you. I don't want, like, I don't want to know you anymore. I'm disappointed. You've let me down 3 times now. And so that was really, really difficult because I had so many expectations for that season. And they were just all shattered in that one moment. And I hadn't had a season-ending injury. I had never had any injuries to my knees. And that's like the one that you hope you never have to go through in your career as a soccer player. So it was hard. It was a lot. And my faith was definitely very broken at that point.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because it is hard to just it's hard to just take yourself back to those moments, even when you were just describing, like, when you first initially, like, got the injury. I was like, oh, like, I got little inside because I know that moment, and it's the worst. And I think something that the Lord has been teaching me, and really being like, Annabelle, like, show yourself, girl, is I am not entitled to the story that I want for my life. And I was actually on the phone with my grandmother a few days ago, and I was talking about someone. I said, I'm so happy for them. They totally deserve that. And she said, no one deserves anything.
Right.
Right?
That's so
And
good.
something that I heard this week was Jesus plus 0 equals everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to be able to get to that point, and it's not every day you're going to
Right.
wake up and be like,
Right.
Jesus plus everything equals, or
Right.
Jesus plus 0 equals
Right.
everything, right? It's a constant daily surrender to know that. But when you are in that season of, God, I've gone to you and
Yeah.
it's not things aren't adding up. What helped you get to a place of where you can stand now and say the opposite?
Yeah. His persistence is what really got me. I put my Bible away in my TV stand, shut the cupboard, and I didn't go to church. I didn't want to talk about the Lord. I wanted nothing to do with him. But because he is so gracious and kind and continues to chase after the one, I just felt in my spirit. Every time I was home alone in my apartment, I felt like that cabinet door was staring at me. And there were times where I would audibly be like, "No." And I would tell the cabinet, I'm not opening you. Like I'm not opening you. I don't want to read. I don't want it. And on May 24th of 2024, I decided, I was sitting in my apartment, just sitting at my island, and I was like feeling like just read, just open your Bible. That's all you got to do. Open your Bible, let me do the rest. So I opened my Bible I took my Bible and I went to this rose garden near my apartment because I tend to feel the Lord's presence most when I'm surrounded by his beauty and nature. And I laid my Bible, laid my blanket, and I opened it and I said, I don't want to be here. I'm doing this because you're asking me to. I don't want to read. I don't even know what I want to read. So you move the pages. You put it where you want me to read. And the wind picks up and he turns the page to Romans. I start reading Romans 1. I'm like, now looking back at it, I'm like, whoa, that actually had a lot more to do with my situation than I thought. But I'm like reading Romans 1 and I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, this doesn't even pertain to my situation. I'm not reading this. Like, and I'm thinking back to the way that I was speaking to the Lord now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, like,
I take it back.
Where's your reverence? But he can handle that. He can handle the raw emotions. He wants us to bring our raw emotions to him. And so I'm like, flip the pages to something else because I don't understand. So the wind picks up again, and he flips the pages to Romans 8, which talks about present suffering for future glory. And I'm reading, and I just like start weeping. And after I'm done reading that, I am like, okay, like I hear you. Thank you. Like, thank you for showing up. And I just felt like this blanket covered me of like, I have you. I have you. You can let it all out. I have you. And so then I'm done reading and I'm like, is there anything else that you want me to read? And the wind picks up again, flips the pages to Romans 3, which talks about God's faithfulness. And as someone who has a lot of parental wounds, not because my parents are amazing and I love them so much, but they were so young when they had myself and my 3 siblings. And they were operating from an unhealed place. So of course they're going to make mistakes. And a lot of those mistakes I projected onto the Lord. And I thought that's who he was. And so reading about God's faithfulness, that really cracked open my heart. And that was the day that I truly met Jesus and decided to rededicate my life and be all into reading his word, to knowing who he is, not just what I think he is. And so from the rest of the year, I wasn't perfect. I still was doing worldly things, but I was in this healing class that my church had offered. I tried to get involved, and it was healing from parental wounds. And a lot of it talked about how when we have these parental wounds, that from such a young age, that teaches us how to parent ourselves when we get older. That teaches us the way that we view ourselves when we get older. And so it was just working through those traumas, healing that with the Lord. By the grace of God, I was able to heal a lot of things that I didn't know I was still holding on to, and that were basically describing my identity and who I thought and what I was believing over myself. And so a lot of these things were brought to my attention, and I invited the Lord to heal all those things. And granted, I'm still healing, and I will continue healing for the rest of my life. But I was able to really just dive into my faith, and it's just been such an amazing journey. And I even forgot your question because I'm just
This
rambling
is
about
amazing.
the Lord.
I don't even want to
That
take it
tends
away
to
from me.
happen to me.
I just want you to talk. But thank you for like describing
Yeah.
where you were, the setting, the garden, because like what a beautiful place for you to
Yeah.
have like the Lord move in your life and for
Yeah.
you to remember back on that. And I also think it's just awesome how you were talking about like your church and like you took action steps to get plugged in, which
Yes.
is like you have to then leave the garden and go do something
Right,
about it, right? And I think what is so cool about your story is that you're kind of having this like Matilda moment where like cabinet shut, you know, like I'm not opening you.
Literally.
And in that moment when you're basically saying, I don't want to hear from you, God, you're pushing him away is acknowledging subconsciously his power.
Yeah.
You're saying, I know that you can flip open the Bible to the page that like it, I'm like, whoa, that is so cool that like even in your doubt, it's like a subconscious, okay, God, I know what you can do. And I know the power that you do have.
That's
and
so good.
Thank you for sharing that story. That is so cool. And I want to keep going because that's not, obviously your soccer career is far from over, but there is so much more to your story. And you go on to unfortunately suffer another ACL tear. And I'm going to let you describe it, but I would love to just share my perspective on this because I was hosting another women in sports show, and I was reporting on this game. An Angel City player had gone down, had collapsed, and there was a girl on the other team who brought the teams together, and she was praying over everyone and in the moment. And that was you. That was Alex. And that was so moving for me because I hadn't seen on my social media page a moment like that in the NWSL probably recently. And so for me, I was obviously concerned about the player, but it was also really cool at the same hard moment to see someone pray over the groups and the both teams in that way. Come to find out, I'm learning more about your story. You later tore your ACL again after you had just come back from your debut. And when I zoomed out and I realized that, I was driving when I was thinking this through. I almost got in an accident because I was so moved by like, wow, like the Lord used you in such a powerful way in such a short amount of time when you were back on the field. And so sorry to basically describe the rest of that story, but that was my perspective of it. And just from such a far place in from a surface level view of seeing that, like, the Lord was so clearly in that moment for you.
And he was, because when I had surgery on my ACL for the second time, I went in and they had told me that it was inevitable that I was going to tear it again because of surgical error the first time, which is hard for me because there's just that trust, the expectation, the disappointment again. But it was, like you were talking about, such a God thing, because if it was inevitable, they said that when they went in to fix my ACL, they were able to just pull it straight out. It hadn't fused with anything because the tunnel angles were off. It hadn't healed one bit. Like, it looked like I had just had surgery. And so I look back and I'm like, that whole year that I was, well, I should say the whole 4 months that I was back in training, I was running, I was doing contact, it could have torn at any moment. But God used me and my story to make it to that game. He held my ACL together to make it to that game so that I could be there in that moment. And it's just like, when you think about it, I'm like, Lord, you are so incredible. Because, and I didn't think that right away. I'm not going to lie. I
How
didn't think
many
that right
games
away.
after your debut back from the first ACL?
It was days. It was 5 days, the day before the next game. We were in Washington, D.C., and the final drill of match day -1, and I go in just to shoulder, and my knee shifts again. And immediately I knew. I was like, there's no way. And I had people around me that were like, just stay positive. Like, you don't know the results yet. And I'm like, I know. Like, my heart sank. And I just was like, Lord, I don't understand. I know my salvation isn't earned by good works, and your love is not earned by good works. It is a free gift. But I was like, I did everything this last year. I chased your heart. I chased your hand and everything. I wanted to know more about you. I love you with everything in me. And again, like, first of all, a little bit probably naive, prideful, arrogant of me to think that sanctification happens in 1 year. But I was just like so broken again. And I remember being in the hotel room and getting a phone call from our team doctor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my heart's racing. And I felt so bad for my roommate at the time, because how do you handle that situation? But I get the phone call and she says, like, I am so sorry. And immediately just tears. And she's like, you suffered a tear to your ACL and your meniscus. And I was just like, it's even worse than the first time. But after, like, just I was sobbing in my room. And I think my roommate, she was like, I'm going to take a shower, I think, so that she could give me just the space to be where I don't know, just to cry it out. And I just remember like laying with my leg up and just sobbing, like no words, just tears down my cheeks. And I think in that moment, I felt so lonely, but looking back on it, the Lord was there. He's always there. And so then later that day, it was the day of the game that we found out. And so I went pregame meal to the team, and I had talked to my coach and medical staff before and captain, and they were just like, it's up to you what you want to do. And so I had decided to just share the results with the team, but I didn't, because I couldn't get through it without sobbing. But I emphasized telling them, like, I want them to not focus on what just happened, but to just go out, play, and have fun, and like be grateful that they get to play. I think that was the one point that I wanted the staff to communicate, was just be so grateful that you get to play, because thankfully it's not career ending, but back-to-back seasons out, it's just like it really makes you appreciate how much you get to play and how quickly it can be taken from you. And thankfully the Lord is working to strengthen my quad, my faith, just everything. And so, yeah, when I got that call, I just felt so shattered. But the Lord has been so gracious. He's been so kind. And he's been so gentle, even on the days where I am angry with him. He just still is so stable. And even when I'm like all over the place, he's not. He's just so faithful. And being in Utah, he's just blessed me tremendously with community, which I think, I mean, I know he knows how much I needed that during this time, and will continue to need that during the rest of my recovery. But yeah, it's been crazy. It's been a wild, wild testimony, but I think once I changed my perspective from like, why me, like, why, trying to understand why, because I may never get those answers until I see him face to face. And even then, he doesn't owe me an answer, like, so I think it was when I changed my perspective from trying to understand why to I prayed, Lord, use me however you want to use me. And I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I asked to be used. And if that means he uses me to suffer well and be an example and a model for what it looks like to suffer well and to glorify his name while I suffer, then I'm going to do that because I want to do anything to further his kingdom and to bring people to know him. And so when I look at it now, I'm living an answered prayer. And I'm so grateful for that. He's a God who answers prayers. And it might not be what I thought, but he hears me. He sees me. He loves me enough to answer my prayer. Use me. And so I think that is what has really kind of helped this whole injury and just being able to suffer well with him at the center of everything.
That is so powerful because you just said, I'm living an answered prayer. And that was a dangerous prayer that you gave him, right? And it's so cool to see how you're able to find joy in finding him and becoming closer with him. And also just the people that I feel like sometimes things that we go through, even if they're a lot for us, they're also for other people to be part of their story.
Right.
Man, I watched how Alex handled that. I saw her in this situation. I watched what she said, how she acted, how she was still a good teammate to me, right? Like, I think what's so cool about your story and seeing it from social media is I'm over here in Boston, not in, where was the game? Was it in Utah?
LA.
It's okay.
Yeah.
This is crazy. The furthest part that we could
Right.
get from each other. I'm on social media in Boston seeing this young woman pray to Jesus in front of all these people and have this significant, powerful moment in the game, not even knowing that, but seeing and being impacted by that moment. And then to hear your story of just the hurt that it has been and the anger too, right? Just, would you mind taking me back to that moment when you were praying? Because not only is that emotional, you also got to be confident and bold in your faith to be like, I'll be the one.
Right.
How did that go down?
Yeah, I think it was extra emotional because the player who went down was one of my good friends from the previous team that I was on. And we had kind of shared some struggles that we were going through during that season together. And so to see her go down, I was about to be subbed on. And I saw her go down and immediately, without even hesitation, ask previous 2 years, a year prior me to do what I did. I just dropped to my knees and I prayed to the Lord on the sideline before I got in, Lord, I don't care what happens. I don't care to get in this game. I don't care about soccer. Lord, be with her. Be with the medical staff. Be your hands, be their hands. Just save her life. And so I think I would have done it for anybody. If I didn't know them, I would have stepped into that prayer circle. I would have done it for anybody, but especially because it was someone that was so close to me, it's just a no-brainer. The Holy Spirit truly has gifted me with the ability to, or the desire and the love to pray for people and over people. Because I used to be terrified of praying. And I used to be like, okay, I need to say the right words because that'll make me sound better. But once the Lord was just like, no, it's a conversation with me. And so I think the Holy Spirit has just really taken over. And so in that moment, I was just like, all right, Holy Spirit, let's do this. And remove me and just speak over your daughter. And so when I got into that prayer circle, I didn't even think about everybody else there. Honestly, it was just a moment with me and the Lord. It was almost, I was just imagining him standing right in front of me, and it was just me and him, and just crying out to him on her behalf and interceding for her. I think I wasn't even thinking about, oh my gosh, this is going to make the news. I'm not it just, I don't know what else to do in those moments besides cry out to the Lord because he is the only one that can control that moment. And so I just I just stepped in. And honestly, at that time, like, I had just this year, the beginning of this year, is when I really submitted to, okay, I'm going to follow the word. I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to get rid of all the worldly things. The way I was living, like, I am all in on Jesus. And so I wasn't even like super like firm in my faith. Like, I was learning about him and growing, and the desire and the hunger to know him was there. And just the fire in me was there. But I wouldn't say I was where I am now. And the Holy Spirit just took over in that moment, because that wasn't a me moment. That was the Holy Spirit was like, girl, get in the middle.
Well,
Right.
well,
I was like, okay.
it's so great that you said that, because I think a lot of people might think I have to be like look perfect in my faith, or feel,
No.
or even just like internally feel like I'm at a good place with the
Right.
Lord to have a moment like that, or for Him to use me.
Yeah.
And like that's the Lord just needs to be like,
Yeah.
I'm here,
Right.
use me. Like
Right.
my hands are open. And so I love that you shared that. And one last question that I would love to ask you just about this recovery road and this journey is the frustration and the anger, because I've had that for myself through injuries. I've had that for other people through injuries, like secondhand. I've watched people deal with it. And I think there is a healthy level of being a competitor, and we're human. We're not Jesus.
Right.
So there are things in our life that we will always wrestle with.
Yeah.
But when you think about your surgeries and the seasons that didn't go the way that you wanted them to, what helps you go from a moment of anger and a moment of like being not happy to a moment of, okay, God, this is your story. Like, what is this reset in your mind?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because I do still have those moments. I shared with my significant other last week that I was just bawling in the shower. I turned on worship music because I always do. And what I thought was just going to be me worshiping the Lord, he revealed that I needed to release some things. And so I still do have those moments where I'm like, Lord, I'm so angry at you. Like, I'm so angry, and not at you, but at the situation. I'm just angry, and I want to switch position. Like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to keep suffering well. I don't want it. And I have those moments, and I'd be lying if I said they weren't often. But in those moments when I am angry, when I am frustrated, I just remember I prayed to be used. And what an honor it is to be used to further God's kingdom, however that looks. And I have to remind myself of that, because if I can further his kingdom by showing that there is joy in suffering, and it's not fake. If you ask me about happiness, that's fleeting. That's an emotion that's fleeting. That's not the joy of the Lord. The joy of the Lord is given from him. And I'm not always happy, but I am always joy-filled, because at the end of the day, I'm here on kingdom assignment. I'm not here to be the world champion and get all the medals and do all the things. Of course, as a competitor, do I want that? Absolutely. But what I want more than that is to say, Jesus, you are enough. If I don't play another game in my career, thank you. You've blessed me with more than enough games. And so it's just remembering that I'm here on kingdom assignment. I'm here to make heaven crowded. And if my life can be brutal and my career be brutal and as hard as it is, that's okay. And if it happens again, that's okay, because I'm here for the Lord. I'm here to bring people to know him for who he is, and not for who they've heard he is, what they've experienced, especially if it's been hurtful things that they've experienced. And that's not Jesus. And I just want people to know that, because I was at a place where I didn't want anything to do with faith, because I thought Jesus was this dictator. I thought he was a rule book. I thought all these things because of things that had happened to me. And I just have such a heart for people that have experienced that, because I've experienced the goodness of God by knowing Jesus himself. And if my life can be a testimony to that, and I can reflect that and bring people to know the Lord, that's what I want to do. And so
It is 100%. I mean, while you were speaking just now, all I could think about was like, man, that is a story that will show people the Lord. And like, you can see it in your eyes. Like just talking to you, you can see the joy in your eyes when you said, I'm not always happy. I love that. I'm not always happy, but I am always joy filled. And you can be joy filled in the chaos. And I think like it's a hard thing to learn in life, but like, man, thankfully you're learning in your 20s because that's what the Lord brought me through. That change when I had to realize I can still have joy when maybe I'm not happy and I still have frustration, I still have anger. Glad that he did it now in my 20s than later. So I just think that is so powerful. But just thank you so much for sharing all of that. And just to wrap up on your journey, because we do want to be praying for you and just follow you. What is the next step in your road to recovery here?
Next step is running. I'm currently a little over 3 months out of my second surgery. So I'd have two because things had to heal from the last surgery, and then they went back in and did another surgery to fix the ACL and the meniscus. So 3 months out of that, I hopefully will be running by the end of this month. So I think that's our next goal, is just getting out of the Alter G and fully 100% body weight running. So it's exciting stuff, and I'm looking forward to it. But I also just want to thank you for having me on here, because what you do is amazing, and just your story is so impactful, and the way that you highlight other people is incredible. And your curiosity about people, it's inspiring.
I like you in the moment of when you said maybe years ago I wouldn't be the one praying. That is me with this show. Every time I'm doing like, God, why me? Like, why am I doing this? But I think he took broken parts of my story to give me the opportunity to be able to say, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Or, hey, Annabelle, like this, you need to understand this so that one day when you do encounter different testimonies and different stories, you can talk about a national championship. You can also talk about a national championship lost and injury and heartbreak and all the things. So thank you for that. But something that I know is going to stay the same regardless of whether you are on the Ultra G, running, swimming, walking, whatever it is your style, because you look amazing today. And I have to ask you and wrap up with this question. I've seen your pregame fits for game days. They're amazing. But if you're not shouting out yourself, what teammate of yours has the best pregame outfits?
Brecken Mazingo.
No hesitation.
Easily. She is so stylish. This girl's had like 50 different hairstyles, pulls off every single one of them. Just every single outfit she shows up in, I'm like, if I tried to wear that, I would look ridiculous. But she just looks so good in everything she wears. And just her creativity, her style, her passion for style. I'm like, yeah, that no-brainer. She
All
comes
right,
straight to
I'm gonna check her out because I could use some of that. So that is awesome. Yes. But Alex, seriously, we are going to be praying for you, cheering you on in soccer, but in life beyond soccer. And so excited to have you on the show.
Yes, I enjoyed my time. Thank you so much.